and I say this a lot, Turks in America, or at least the way they present their
Yeah,
arguments and
yeah.
the way they present their
Yeah,
ideas
Turks are
is
retards.
completely fucking stupid.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
Instead of like saying, just one time they were having, listen, this is
They're they're
Armenian
they're
I know.
occupied
they're
territory.
they're always on
Okay,
the
you run in
defensive.
there.
I get what you're gonna say.
Yeah.
They're always on the defensive. So
Not even on the
it's
defensive, they're even insulting about it. They
Yeah.
think that, okay, it comes from the defensive standpoint, but then they go on the offense in a completely ridiculous
Yeah,
way,
so like
which
for
is like,
example,
imagine if a girl said, I got raped, okay? You want to say, all right, listen, you have to be sympathetic and listen, right?
mhm,
And say, I understood. A girl is sitting there crying, talking about, I don't, my grandmother this, my mother that, and this is all I have of them. And do you know how much of an asshole you look when, I don't know, uh, Gokhan comes to the mic and says, you're a liar about everything.
dude,
Everything they taught you was a lie. Turkey only was trying to preserve peace. We had peace with Armenia so long. And
yeah,
you know what you look like? You
dude,
look
dude,
like a
dude,
fucking asshole.
dude, if you think that was worse, I mean, like, um, there are plenty of examples that I can give, but like in
That are worse, I'm sure. But I mean
yeah,
to
but
say
I mean,
that
like, for example, a very common used argument is like, um, if you actually wanted a genocide against Armenians, there would be not a single Armenian alive today. Even Erdogan even
I've
used that.
heard that.
Dude, they said
Wait,
that. They
no,
said that.
wait.
Imagine.
Erdogan even
They
used
said
that.
that.
Wait, Erdogan even used that in an argument. He said like, if there was a genocide, how come there are still Armenians in Turkey today? I'm not
No,
joking.
listen. This is a liberal campus. So UCLA is a liberal
Yeah.
campus, right? So, and this is a pro-Palestinian campus. They actually voted
Oh,
to
really? In
ask
America?
the yeah, and this used to be a very pro-Israel campus, but just the liberal kids, the Bernie Sanders crowd, they actually voted to have the investments of UCLA be divested from Israel. It's a famous divestment campaign. And UCLA was one of the first universities to vote for it, and it actually drew like this Israeli propaganda machine crazy because they're like, oh my God, these kids in 10 years, we're going to have no voice for us on college campuses. In 20 years, that means everybody's going to start voting against us. So imagine if right after that, and this actually we have a Muslim student association where Turks, Pakistanis, Arabs, black people, white people, whatever. And so it created actually a divide because the Palestinians are saying, "Hey, listen, the Armenians are one of the biggest supporters of us." I don't know why, but they're like saying the Armenians are one of the biggest supporters of us in this whole like sort of pro anti-Israel divestment campaign. Which, by the
They
way, I'm
don't like
actually
them.
against. By the way,
They don't
I'm
like
actually
each other.
against. And these Turks come in and be like, what where is the Arabs are betraying us again, and 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 it's just the funniest thing to me is like, where is you stand with these Kurds against us, and like I'm just like, dude, just be smart about it, even if you think it's bullshit. The other thing he said, what did he say? He said, oh, they started it. They started it. That's your
Bro.
answer?
Yeah.
They started it? Let's say they did. Let's say they did.
It requires
I mean,
your expectations are of someone who has some kind of emotional and intellectual,
that's not the average Turk, my man.
No, but I mean, like, if you want, and then all the Turks are always just like, why? How come everybody was against Operation Peace Spring, or how come everybody's against Turkey, or how come everybody's
Yeah,
this, or how
it's
come
like, I
everybody's
mean,
that?
even if on my page I have like people saying stupid shit like, um, like, even if we recognize these, all the Europeans still wouldn't like us. They will always look down on us. It's always
That's
this.
true, though.
Yeah, it's.
That's the oldest trick in the book.
I mean, this is like,
That
It's
is true, though.
also
I'll give them that.
well, no,
but
not in the way they mean it.
yeah, they mean it in a way like, that.
Oh, we shouldn't because it doesn't matter anymore. I see.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're actually the image they have in their heads is much more confrontational than what would actually be the case,
Oh
rather than
my
sort of
God. Yes.
the typical European, maybe slightly Orientalist outlook. They're
Dude, it
imagining
even
like
happens
actively
between
working against
Turkish people
Turkey.
themselves, like the Turks and the Kurds, for example. These are people who are religious, right? So
Mhm.
in LA, I party with the leftists, but then I have breakfast with the rightists the next morning. They're from the east usually, and they have just better tasting food. I just
Chica
you
food for
know
life.
it's just nice when you have a hangover and then the next day you go and you have men at a anyway. The point is that and you would just and you I've seen at least 3 fights at one of these breakfasts where the Kurdish guy is saying, these Turks, they these like he doesn't notice what he's saying, that he has like 4 or 5, yeah, and then you have 4 or 5 of these Turks sitting around you, right? And then so he'll say these, they took my dad's hand and they stabbed it and they moved us out and burned our village and blah. And so just listen, he's a Kurdish, you guys are both religious folks, right? You guys should both be like, and they're like saying, no, the Kurds exaggerate everything, and they're full citizens. There's no problem. We consider them brothers. They keep wanting to stab us
Yeah,
in the back.
I mean,
They're
it's
British agents. And just like, oh my god.
dude.
Okay, he's
Sometimes,
talking about a personal experience where his dad was mistreated by a Turkish soldier. Could he have worded it better? Yeah, but he's still in pain, right? He's still giving a memory that's painful to him.
mhm.
Just sit there and be like, hey, I'm sorry that you this is a painful experience for you, and
Yeah, but I mean,
and
like,
then you could just present your idea in another way instead of just saying, no, the Kurds, we always treated the Kurds as our brothers. And
yeah, but I mean, like,
so
I feel,
basically you're calling this dude a liar.
yeah. I mean, this is also because Turks, because of two reasons. First of all, Turks see this as a political attack, and second of all, it's like because there is like no political discussion in Turkey. So like often when you are discussing with a Turk, 9 out of 10 times you're basically discussing with a normie, and you can have like a bingo card with you and predict his arguments. Like
Yeah, sure.
I mean, like, if you're talking to an Islamist, you will be sure that he will talk about Jews at a certain moment. If you're talking about a Kemalist, he will try to